this done. Y'all have any? If y'all have anything else?
We gave you guys everything. I guess today we're expecting to get some response back to what we gave you.
I have some on. Okay, there's nothing else. So okay, I didn't know if there was anything else going to be any other proposals. We haven't had a lot of time to review because I wasn't here that week. Last week was council meeting. Mr. Denneen was out of town Friday, and he's been out this week. Well, a little bit I do have, I can respond, and we'll be coming back at a future meeting with some more counters. But I can kind of tell you initially, kind of going through, starting at the beginning on the personnel records and things. I understand, I guess, I do, but I don't understand that one is that's just a lot of public record. Somebody wants to know if somebody can look at a public record. And to me, that's trying to keep up with that. Public record, anybody can look at it. So we could put it on the website. Maybe we should just put it, all the personnel records on the website, and just that way you wouldn't have to notify anybody. And you just go look at them. But we're not. But trying to notify somebody is a huge administrative task because we don't know who they're going to ask in the county. They don't know in our office. And we're just not really interested in trying to keep up with that.
So to kind of clarify that, the way I understand it is that typically public records requests are disseminated in the sheriff's office. It's typically done through Gary Davidson. I understand the county has somebody that does it over in maybe your office or somewhere there.
And then there's another area, Joanne Magley's area, that does public records.
So
there's multiple places that it can go to.
And technically, they can walk into an office and do a building.
I'm not suggesting that we have to make every office in the county say you have to send an email. I'm saying is whoever disseminates the document, and it's typically done through 3 different locations, it sounds like. Is it that difficult for the county that they can't send an email through the email system and say, hey, just FYI, we've disseminated your documents or your personnel.
Somebody's got to keep up with that. And when people are really busy, I mean, it's kind of like you guys, every time you go on David, you send the person that you looked up an email saying, oh, by the way, we just had to look you up in the data system.
That's a totally different thing.
Well, no, I'm giving you an example of a workload. If you had to do that, it's saying somebody's going to, union, you're responsible to do that. Not the county, union, you're responsible to do that. That's a huge workload. So it's real easy to ask people to do it, but trying to keep that up. Because some people walk in and don't even take a record. They just walk in and say, I want to look at a file. And they don't tell you their name, they don't tell you anything.
You don't have a form that they have to
They don't have to by law.
But do you have a form?
Yeah, we ask them to give us their information. They don't,
How
sometimes
many
they just say,
people
I'm not,
say,
they
how
just
many
say,
people know that they don't have to? Not many.
well, there are. But
I would say 99% of people say, sure, they don't know any better. Unless they're an attorney.
They just don't, well, you'd be amazed how many people are savvy.
How
'Cause
many
they're coming to look, they're usually, they're savvy.
How many did you have last year?
Pardon?
How many did you have?
I don't try to keep up with it. I'm too busy doing other stuff to keep up with
You
that.
don't keep track?
There may be some logs are out there. And if you want to come look at whatever log we have, employees will.
So you keep a
look at
log?
Yeah, there are some logs. If somebody gives us information, we'll log it. But if they're not, we don't. I mean, we try to log everything. If they don't give us their name, we don't have their name. We try to log it, but I can't guarantee everyone's logged. But I don't know. I ask my staff to log them. But that, they're busy. They get doing things. Our office is very, very busy. So trying to do that, I understand. And I just tell you, I worked in another city. When I first went there 20 years ago, they did that. But also, we had employees almost fight each other. If they found out another employee went and looked at their record, till we stopped, that whole policy got changed in the city. Because it turned into people would go to the public or the other employee and ask them, why are you looking at my record? And it almost turned ugly to the point the whole policy got changed to say, hey, and normally, if your record's getting looked at anyway, it is serious enough. If you're involved in some major incident, that's going to happen. The press is going to do that. And if not, we don't know why they look at them. Sometimes family members come in, we just guess who they are. You know, we don't know why they're looking. But anyway, that's the issue. It's not, I understand what you're saying. It's just trying to keep up with it. It's just a huge task.
What you're saying is it just can't be done.
It's just hard. I'll put it this way. Anything can be done, but will it happen every time? Probably not, because people will miss stuff. Then I don't want people to complain that you missed them. And then it's just another task you got to put on another person to say, now here's another task you got to do. And now they're doing another job and they're trying to do the public records request at the same time. They're multitasking. So
The task is that I want to go see Eric. They have to sit down, they have to redact certain things. Medical, address, social security, all spouse, anything that's in there got to do with any personal
They got to
information.
redact it.
So it takes a little bit of time.
Takes time.
Sure.
So they do that if they're your folks, or there's a list. The statute's got a list. We have the list. The whole list of folks that are redacted. So you redact, but once they're redacted, they're redacted. You don't have to go back again. What you just got to do is make sure you redact any new things that went in. But once you redacted them, they're redacted.
So
But
that's
after
with
that-
your system. Our system is not automatic. They actually have a system that they can go in. Ours is with a black magic marker.
So it's just, anyway, I understand what you're saying, but that's one reason we went. The next issue that you raised, well, we'll go past that one. We'll get back to the wage solution. Well, the Teamster representative, I don't have a problem with the language for is that the percentages. Now, the issue of every year trying to keep it in escrow, we're not interested in that. We'll keep the language the same other than the percentages. We don't have a problem with those percentages.
What we're trying to say is, and maybe, is that we ran into this problem this year. It has always been each year, October 1, or whenever we ratify, we're supposed to get 1 hour from each employee. Well, this time around, you guys said, well, no, it was a 2-year agreement, so you got 1 hour for 2 years, and that's not the intent of it.
Well, that's the way it's always been except for 1 year. If you went back 1 year, what was his name that was here previously? Josh. Josh came over and asked one of our staff members, and they gave it that year, and they shouldn't have. But every other year, we go back and I had Angela go back. It's never been done that way. If it was a multi-year agreement, if you went back to the years or multi-years, because the language says it was always given that year, all but 1
We
year.
don't typically have a lot of multi-year agreements.
So they did in the past.
Okay, but, so the intent of it is an hour a year.
No, the intent was to
No, the intent has always been, for the 21 years I've been a deputy, has been 1 hour
Have you been-
per year.
Well, it hasn't been administered that way.
Well,
So, I mean, just tell you, that must not have been the intent, because it wasn't administered that way during multi-year agreements, all but one.
okay, let's clarify something. That article is an article that benefits the union. It's not something that benefits the county at all. So the intent of that article is, I think we would probably have the most knowledge about what the
Were
intent
you at the
is.
table when it was proposed?
Listen, I've been here 21 years and it's always been an hour a year.
Well, I can just...
Whether it's been administered that way or not,
provide
that's
me
the
some
intent.
documentation that show me that it has.
Okay.
How about that? Because I'm disputing that, and you're saying it has. I'm disputing it. And I went back and looked at some multi-year agreements and had Angela go back, and that's not what happened. But you're saying what I'm saying is not true.
You'll agree, though, that in some of those multi-year contracts, they went ahead and did an hour per year.
1 year back in 12. In
Okay.
12. The years before that, we had multi-year agreements, you didn't. And the only reason they did it then, Angela says, I made a mistake. I should have known better. She'll be the first to tell you that. She said, I
How
made
many
a mistake.
multi-year agreements did we have before that?
I wouldn't
We
hear.
used to have, we had a bunch of 2-year contracts. Charles, you have your, you didn't bring the binder. We used to get like 2 years. 2 years.
And most of those were as a result of us running over on contract negotiations. So we lumped it into that second year, so we wouldn't have to go right back to the table. So,
Well, I don't know that if you always had went over so much. Most places didn't go over until the economy hit
we've
really
had a
bad.
long history of going over.
And,
I can't tell you.
but anyway, I don't have a problem, the county didn't have a problem with the percentages.
But the county does have a problem with having language that says it's 1 per year.
We don't want to try to keep up with all that.
It'd be two,
And also-
it's
and
2 year
also-
contract, it's 2 years, it's not keeping up, it's pretty,
What
that's
it's basically
basic.
saying is every October, you've got to delete an hour.
That's
from-
really
and-
simple.
And move it, just like we do if it was a 1-year contract.
Well, I'll talk to them about it. Right now, our position is no, but I'll go back and we'll discuss it some more.
Why is the county's position no?
Because we just want to keep it the way it was written. Ours is, we don't see a need to change. And ours is why, you know, and the way
Is
you've
it?
written it is also, you know, I think the intent is to come to the bargaining table and you have hours to be at the bargaining table. If you're not at the bargaining table, then,
Yeah, but it's not just
Well, yeah,
bargaining.
there's a lot that goes into this other than just bargaining.
well, also y'all collect dues. Well, you know, but I used to run the
We-
union
the-
25-something years ago, and I worked for the Teamsters Union. We didn't have these in there, so what we
Executive.
did, we took our dues money and paid the folks.
We don't
That's how we
receive
did
any
that.
of the dues. We
That's
also
how we do it, did it. That's why we collected dues.
Okay, well, I don't get anything out of dues. I get, when I have to show up and represent somebody in an internal affairs investigation, I don't get paid, I clock out to do it, but I use the hours that are given to me to do
Well,
that.
I understand, but I know when I paid our folks, when I ran the local, I knew I paid our
We don't
folks
get paid
to do
anything
stuff,
for this.
to do that. Well, anyway.
We use the leave hours and we do the rest on our own time.
Well, we'll go back, I'll go back and we'll discuss that. I understand what you're saying. We'll go back, but right now, that's where we're at, okay? But we'll go back and take a look at that. What was the other one? All right, I think after that, you get back to the wage one, is that where it goes? Did y'all cost, is that the last? the next one?
Insurance.
No, They didn't open that.
We haven't proposed any changes in insurance, although we have opened it.
So you didn't propose anything on that? Right, no proposal on that?
Nothing at this point.
The wages, what did y'all cost that out of costing to implement that?
About $4.5 million. If you did it across the board, all the way up to the chief deputy position.
Is that with or without benefits?
That is inclusive of all your retirement stuff, FRS, FICA, Social Security. the whole thing.
How did you do it? Did you do it base pay or current pay?
I did it at the time, it was, the first time that we put this together was based on the document that you sent us, where it had people's base pay at the rate of, after we made all the adjustments.
So that number would have gone up by 3% that we
Correct.
got last October.
And that's where I have now, to get us, it's about 4.4 million to do everybody up to the chief deputy. And that, it was 3.9, it's gone up to 4.4 because we haven't done it yet and we had a 3% raise.
So you did it all base pay?
I did it off of I did it off the pay of every individual
Okay, so,
employee.
well, there's a difference, and maybe you don't know on that spreadsheet, there's a difference between base pay and current pay, because your current pay had all your certs and stuff in them.
And you don't get percentages on, like, you get your
So,
educational
so
allowance.
it's a difference in how you apply.
No.
Well, let me
I
just
did it
tell you
off
the difference,
current
let me tell you the
pay. I
difference.
did it off what their current rate of pay was.
Okay, all right. Because when we looked at it initially, not even going, I don't believe, just your bargaining unit, it was close to roughly that's 5.6 million or more to implement.
Okay.
So our view is we're not interested in a step plan, especially not at that, and it's just a way to get more money for people just to be here. And what we are willing to do is offer a 3% wage increase.
So in other words, the county says, we'll stick our head in the sand for the problem that we continue to have and just,
Well, we're saying we
Give you
don't,
3%.
what we're saying is we'll offer a 3% wage increase, is what we're saying. And right now, we'll be back, haven't had a chance, like I said, I'll be meeting Mr. Dinneen.
I don't know that just in and of itself, a pay raise is just for people to have, okay? The concept is that when you start a career, and these are careers, you're asking us to be professionals, you want us to get college degrees, you want us to be professionals. The concept is that you hire somebody and they start out at their career very low. They make a low wage. And then as they stay with the agency and they show loyalty to the agency and they do a good job and they get better at their job and they progress in their careers, that their pay goes up. So the concept is you buy a house that you can barely afford when you're young. And as the years go on, it becomes more affordable. At the rate that we're going, that's not what's happening. what's happening is you're giving us a pay raise that year after year raises the bottom, but it raises the how to bring for it. It competes with inflation. So as time goes on, now you've been here 10 years, all you've done is raise the pay rate very similar to inflation. So after 10 years, I now have a kid, I have more responsibilities, I'm better at my job, I'm not progressing any. What we're doing is in essence, just maintaining. And that's why we're having massive turnover, and we're having some of the issues that we are, where we have a lot of deputies that are very new. And it's not just for us to have. It's something that's earned.
There's also another facet to this as well, is that we're pretty unique to law enforcement. We have overlapping pay scales in this agency, where I've been a sergeant for almost 9 years. I've never had a group of subordinates that I haven't had at least one of those subordinates making a higher hourly wage than I do as their supervisor. That's happened regularly to me for the past 9 years. Also, with almost 9 years in that rank, I spent the first 8 years, or first 7 years of that at starting pay. Each cost of living raise that we got along the way kept me right at the bottom of the rank. Countless people were promoted after me that make more than I do based on what their hourly rate was as a deputy. So as far as for performance, longevity, experience on the job, training, anything that I've obtained has been for my own personal goals. It hasn't been rewarded by any financial step, and that's what we're trying to do. Maybe a step plan that doesn't cost as much of that, but that's our goal with a step plan, is for people to see some separation, some benefit of their hard work over the years.
Some value in remaining here as an employee.
Yeah, there's no incentive to stay here. I mean, those that understand compounding interest make it. Those that don't, pay. I mean, if your pay doesn't go up, then it benefits employees to go to other agencies that are giving a fair pay increase. I mean, if you know that you're going to be at the starting pay for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and then you're going to be stuck at, even if you promote, you're going to be stuck at starting supervisor pay for however many years, there's no incentive to stay here. If you can go to Flagler County where they have a step plan, or to another agency that's going to provide, standard raises that include any kind of a cost of living raise, or anything that's going to get you much above inflation. Now, some of the raises we've gotten have been a very small amount larger than actual what inflation was, but in all reality, it's virtually non-existent.
The other issue we have, if you look at the national trend, agencies across the country, major metropolitan agencies, can't recruit enough people to fill their vacancies for attrition. They can't meet the attrition. But it's going to come here. And if you look at how many vacancies we're holding right now, this isn't a problem that's going to be unique just to other areas of the country.
What we give to folks is, you guys are very unique in that, in a lot of areas, but a lot of employees don't get to take home cars. They don't get paid for their uniforms. They don't get that provided.
Other law enforcement agencies
I'm just
don't
talking
have
about
that.
employees. People got to live.
But we're not all other employees.
You got to live. They got the same issue. You got spouses. What do they earn? Do they get step plans?
We're not negotiating for other employees.
I'm just answering my question.
Nor do they.
I'm not
You're asking
shot at. Excuse me. Okay. You're asking. You're giving all these reasons, but most of the rest of the world don't offer that. So, but you know what? You serve the citizens out there, so they want to be looking like the same way they earn their pay raises. We just don't agree. I understand your reasonings. Hey, step plans are great. I mean, I can be in the step plan and max out, and it's all about how you want to pay for it, and you get there. Our philosophy is right now we don't want a step plan. The county's not interested in a step plan.
The
You know,
county
you have great,
for
but
many
you
years.
get things like certification pays and things like that. You get percentages. A lot of agencies give a flat amount. You
We
know, like
also
Daytona,
used to
they get
get-
flat amount, $17. Y'all get a 5%. That's significantly more. Y'all don't pay 10%.
We also, for many years, Tom, there's a range of pays within all our classifications. And for years, the informal step plan that went on in this county was the merit system. And there hasn't been a merit raise in probably close to 10 years.
It's been,
And
2008
and
was
so
the
that,
last
those
You're right.
ranges of pay when you're recruiting new people, that's basically at this point is a myth. This is, the bottom end is the number you're going to be at and stay at, because we have guys that are here for nearly 10 years that are still at this bottom number, minus whatever longevity percentage we had in the last contract. This number that's up here is now reserved for probably maybe a handful of deputies and sergeants that are at that rate. So we have these pay scales, pay ranges that are there with no way of ever attaining that.
I understand that right now, there's not any merit. The language is still there. At some point there may be when they're provided.
It's been
The
almost a decade.
The pay ranges are there.
Do you think
to
that
provide
almost a decade is reasonable for a deputy to be at starting pay?
Pays, you know, it's what it's competitive. Are we attracting, you know, those folks? Are we getting a pool? Yes, we
Are we? Do you believe we are?
You know,
So I have a couple of questions though, now that everybody's kind of settled down. Tom, I can't tell you the last time that I turned on the news. In fact, I don't think I've ever turned on the news and not seen a police officer get crucified for something in the news media. And it seems like it's a lot more lately. And yet you want to sit here and lump the law enforcement in this county into the same group as the guy that driving a dump truck or the guy that's doing the
they got to
ditch.
pay their
Let
bills.
me
They got
finish.
kids.
Let
They
me
got kids and
finish.
families.
Let me finish. I heard you out, now it's your turn to hear me out, all right? They have families, but I don't see them being crucified on the news for making that split-second decision in the middle of the night of whether or not they just took somebody's life with the backhoe. Okay? So they're not the same as a deputy sheriff.
And pay doesn't change that.
Well,
Pay doesn't change my decision to make a career that I want to make, and pay's not going to make that go away, and pay's not going to do anything with that.
well, you're the only-
Pay is not going to make that go away. Paying you more is not going to tell the public, quit crucifying them.
Volusia County is the only one that seems to think that way, because the state even sees it that way. That's why they have high risk versus low risk. So, for some reason, Volusia County is stuck in the past and does not
No,
want to
'cause you got high
recognize
risk.
that.
You got high risk.
You're not seeing the point. My point is you're the only ones that want to say everybody's the same. When everybody else outside of this county says, no,
I don't
you're
think
not the
it is.
same.
I think that's a true statement.
Okay.
You show me every agency out there's got a step plan but us. Every agency out there's got one.
That are comparable to us, we have.
No, every agency's got one. He just said every other police agency.
I didn't say every agency has one.
Well, it doesn't matter if they're comparable or not. This is Volusia County. Like you said, you don't bargain for all the other people. Well, those are all
No, but
different
I'm certainly
agencies.
being
They're all-
compared to them
they're-
as I
they're
sit
all-
here.
They're all different agencies. They're all different agencies. You know, I can compare you if you want to compare, but we don't have to. But ours is this is Volusia County. This is, you know, where we're at currently. You know, this is where the offer I've got. You know, we can, and right now, this is where I'm at. I'll be back at a future meeting with,
Can I ask you a question about, and I can do this research if I have to, but someone who drives a dump truck or someone who puts up traffic signals, does the worker who puts them up make more than what his supervisor makes? Do they have the same structure?
He might if he works the overtime.
No, I'm not talking about overtime, I'm talking about base pay.
Well, it depends.
Because I haven't had an assignment in this agency that I haven't had a subordinate who's made more base pay than I do. So every year every contract that we get a 2% raise, they get that much further.
well, I've been in the
out of me.
business 30 years, more than 30 years, but you know, on this side, close to that, and guess what? I had this issue in some cities 15, 20 years ago. No
But
different.
I'm asking this.
No different. I mean, you know, and there's out there today, we probably do, because here's why. You're right, we had a merit system until merits come back, and I'd like to see merits back, they're not here. But if merits were, if somebody had been here as a driver or whatever, 25 years and a new supervisor been maybe with the organization 8 or 9 years or less, got promoted up, they could be making more than them by the fact that that person was here so many years in a system that allowed them to get the top of their range, then this person came in at the bottom of their range when they were hired in. That could happen.
Where does
And-
that happen in the private sector, the ones that you said that those are, you know, that we?
Well, a lot of times people don't even know what they make in the private sector, but it's not uncommon. In fact, that's why you're seeing now, especially with women in the suits that are going on, that they're saying it happens all the time. And so it does happen.
I don't
You
think it's
know,
as common as you say.
It does happen.